Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Langley Event Center, the site for Game 5 of the 2019 Rogers WHL Championship Series. My name is Taylor Roca. With me, as always, Brock Boot. Brock, we're here ahead of Game 5, and, we're at a breaking point in this series. The Prince Albert Raiders have staked out a 3-1 lead in the best of 7. The Vancouver Giants find their backs against the wall, and ultimately, we look back at Game 4, and it was a much different contest from Game 3, a very tightly contested affair. And Ian Scott really was the deciding factor.
Yeah, you look back at Game 4, and it was an incredibly even game. I think both teams had stretches where they carried play, but for the most part, it was back and forth. And it really came down to which team was going to get an amazing individual performance from one or two players, or which team was going to make best on the one good scoring chance they were going to have. And at the end of the day, Brett Leeson was able to capitalize on his breakaway. And what more can we say about Ian Scott? He was lights out in that game and really ultimately stole that game, if you will, from the Raiders, for the Raiders, especially with the save he made with 7 minutes left on Alex Kanek-Liepert. Really, what more is there to say about Ian Scott?
A 36-save shutout for Ian Scott in Game 4. He now has 5 shutouts throughout the 2019 WHL playoffs, which is quietly and quickly closing in on a WHL record. It's not quite there. 6 is the mark. So Ian Scott ultimately has been, we're not going to say that he's the MVP, but he has been a key factor for the success for the Raiders to this point, both in the series and in the postseason. Now, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of focus from this Raiders group on being there for one another, being a tight-knit unit, and being a big family. And, we really saw a lot of that exemplified on the ice in Game 4, particularly late in the third period, protecting a 1-0 lead.
The Raiders did a phenomenal job of closing in around the net and not allowing the Giants to get to loose pucks. There were some chances. The Giants were able to generate more chances in Game 4 than they have in previous games. And to their credit, the Raiders were able to get sticks in the lanes. They blocked a ton of shots. Every time you looked, the shot was going off or deflecting off a leg or a stick, and the Giants just weren't able to be the first ones on those loose pucks. So credit the Raiders for what they're able to do there. And like you said, it's a hard-working team. It's a team that has a lot of star power, but they don't approach it from a way where there's any distractions in that regard. They put their work boots on, and I think we saw that in Game 4, and now it's going to be key for them to not let the moment overtake them. They're only 1 game away. This Raiders team hasn't lost 3 games in a row all season, so they can taste it. The motivation is there, and they're just going to have to continue to approach Game 5 like they have the rest of the season, the rest of the playoffs, what got them to this point. And if they're able to do that, not let the moment overtake them, I think they're going to be in a good place to win.
You said it, the Raiders haven't lost 3 straight during the 2018-19 WHL season. Outside of that, in the last 30 years of WHL championship history, no team has surrendered a 3-1 series lead to lose the WHL championship in 7 games. So recent history, longer form history, certainly sits in favor of the Raiders heading into Game 5. Now, though the Vancouver Giants find themselves backs up against the wall, down 3-1, facing elimination, there's a lot to like. We talked to head coach Michael Dick ahead of Game 5. We talked to Captain Jared Dimitru, Bowen Byram. There's still an optimistic outlook, and this team is really quite happy with the performance they put forth in Game 4.
They should be really happy with the performance. I think they did a lot of things right in that game. They came out with a huge response in the first 10 minutes after a really tough Game 3. I think there's no secret about that. And a lot of people were wondering how they would respond, and they responded extremely well. They came out. I thought they carried play for the first 10 minutes. Credit the Raiders for being able to withstand that and escape the first period with the game still tied at 0. But that being said, I think the Giants did everything right. They're saying everything right. Being around the team this morning, they seem like a group that they do still believe in themselves. And at this point, you're down 3-1 in the series. There are going to be people who are going to write them off. And I think if you're the Vancouver Giants, you take ownership of that and you just go into the game. You take it shift by shift, and you just remain confident in your game. You're not here in the WHL Championship Series by accident. I think they did a lot of things right, and if they just continue to play that way and they're able to bear down and get on some of those loose pucks, eventually things are going to start going right. They're going to get some goals, and David Tennek was great again, gave them a chance to win. So there's a lot to like about what you saw last night from Vancouver. It's just a matter of getting those bounces and hopefully capitalizing.
Something that I really like that head coach Michael Dick touched on is, when it comes to beating Ian Scott, he feels like they're doing all the right things. They're generating traffic in front. They're going hard to the net. But for the first time in the 2019 WHL playoffs, the Giants find themselves up against a goaltender that is making saves even when he can't see the puck. So you got to think at some point something will give. There's either going to be a redirection or there's going to be a rebound that Scott isn't able to control, and a bounce is going to go in favor of the Giants. So we know that that's the plan for Vancouver heading into Game 5. They're going to continue to get to the blue paint and try to create a little bit of havoc in and around Ian Scott. Now, Brock, Game 4, we saw electric energy from the Langley Event Center crowd, and credit to them following out a tough Game 3. They really brought the energy in Game 4.
Yeah, credit the fans here. This building has been phenomenal. If you've been here, you know what I'm talking about. It's been loud. I know Michael Dick said if this hasn't been the loudest it's ever been in here, it's right up there with the last series against Spokane. So I know it's been a little challenging with a shutout and a tough Game 3, but the fans have stuck through. They've given this Giants squad as much energy as they possibly could, and if the Giants can come out, get an early goal, I think this place is going to be amazing, and we're going to see that the team feed off of that.
Now, this deserves mentioning as well before we close. We chatted with head coach Michael Dick, Jared Demetriou, Bowen Byram, and we heard from Braden Watts. This is a Giants squad that they feel like a group of brothers. They feel like a family, and they're not done. They're not ready to go home. They know that if they're on the wrong side of things Friday, that's the last time they'll be together as that unit, and they're not ready for that. So we're going to see a strong push from the Giants come Game 5 as they try to fight off elimination. With that being said, Game 5 of the 2019 Rogers WHL Championship Series goes at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, Friday night at the Langley Event Center. Will the Vancouver Giants stave off elimination, or will the Prince Albert Raiders host the Ed Chenoweth Cup? Tune in for all your action at WHLLive.com.